Romans chapter 14, verse 23. It says, "But whoever has doubt is condemned if they eat, because their eating is not from faith, and everything that does not come from faith is sin." In the Bible, it asks, have you prayed for your family, your children, your friends in tears? Am I speaking about the things that are not recorded in the Bible? No, Jesus is God himself. He is the creator. He came in the body of man. But in Hebrews chapter 11 it says that he does not have any sin. For who did he come to this world and shed his blood? For who did he sweat blood? For who did he was he unable to eat, unable to sleep? Wherever he went, he was cursed at. People complained at him. And all of the bad things of this world was blamed on Jesus. Where is there for Jesus to stand? Foxes have their holes, birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head. He said this weeping and crying. He was so hungry that he went to the fig tree. When he went to the fig tree was bright green but did not bear any fruit. And Jesus cursed that tree. And as they were returning back from Jerusalem, the tree that Jesus cursed in the morning was completely withered dry at night. This is a message that was said by Jesus to teach people God could take away life. Have you wept? Have you cried for your parents, for your mother and your father? Have you shaken as if you were naked in the middle of winter? Have you prayed for your parents, your siblings in tears? Have you prayed for yourself in tears? A prayer with tears. In the Bible, it says that God will never ignore those prayers. He will never ignore those prayers. Even when we don't know what illnesses we have, we don't pray to God. We don't weep. We don't cry. And all we want is the wish of happiness. And if you're such a person, that is not a Christian. During the women's group meeting today, I spoke briefly. Why do you not receive an answer even after being a Christian for decades? After you testified of Jesus Christ and accepted him into your hearts, you've probably been to many retreats, many seminars, and always the pastor is there not praying, but he's just banging on the podium. Prayer is a blessing that can open up any safe, the safe of blessings. Have you received an answer for your prayers? There's two reasons that you don't receive an answer. It's because our lives are lived outside of Jesus Christ, not within Jesus Christ. And then, you've received an amazing amount of the word throughout your life as a Christian, right? But have you kept those messages in your heart? No, you let it all go. It's all escaped you. You're outside of Christ. You've missed the word. And you live with the mentality of this world and of mankind. So will God and Jesus accept your prayers? In John chapter 15 verse 7 it says, "If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it'll be done for you." And secondly, we must not lose the message that we receive and pray. This is God's promise. Look at King Asa. Asa didn't believe in God. He didn't believe in the word of creation. And all he believed in were doctors. So God waited patiently for 3 years. God thought to himself, oh, he'll probably seek me. He'll probably pray to me. And God waited for King Asa. But King Asa completely forgot about God and called upon his doctors and asked, hey, is there any good prescriptions? God became so angry that he struck Asa down. That's 2 Chronicles chapter 16 records this. Am I telling you not to go to the doctor? Am I telling you not to go see the pharmacist? No. First, we must ask God. God created that prescription, right? It's all part of creation. When we get sick, we forget everything. What does your husband matter to you? What does your children matter to you when you're ill? What does food matter to you? It's just, you can't even digest it after you eat it. That is why death is not the end. If a person becomes ill, then that's no good. Those who have not come out today have amazing free time, right? They're even Jesus loved Lazarus, right? He loved Lazarus so much that when he heard that Lazarus died, Jesus went to the grave and cried. That's God crying. Why? Because of sin. Because the result of sin is death. Romans chapter 6 verse 23 records this. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, I have tried to gather you under mine. Look, your house is left to you desolate. Your children will be slaughtered. And Jesus saw the destruction of the nation and of Jerusalem. And so, on Mount Gethsemane, Jesus looked upon Jerusalem and wept. Luke chapter 19 verse 41 records this. Apostle Paul too cried and prayed for the saints that he evangelized, not just in Jerusalem, but in Ephesus and in all the different cities. Acts chapter 20 verse 31 records this. Look at Hannah, who couldn't have any children. She cried herself before Jesus, or before God, prayed for a child. And what did God give her? God gave her 5 children. When a prayer is lifted up with tears, what does God say? God said, I have thought of you, and I will give you a son. Try praying to God in tears of your illnesses. God will think of you. Even when another person thinks of us, it becomes a great strength to us, right? Hebrews chapter 5 verse 7. It says during the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears. Jesus came to this world and lived a life of tears, walked a path of tears. Psalm chapter 39, verses 12 through 13. It says, "Hear my prayer, Lord. Listen to my cry." Psalm chapter 6, verse 8. "Lord has heard my weeping." So those who do not have tears do not yet know of their illness. Try being urgent, right? If your children are dying before your eyes, then you'll probably hold on to your child, shedding tears. "Oh, why are you dying? I should be dying in your place." And look at the love of the mother and the father. It is a prayer mixed with tears. It is because we are not urgent. It is because people are not urgent that they do not cry, they do not pray, and that they do not come to church. There has to be absolute destruction for them to come jumping like rabbits back to God. That is why Apostle Paul said to the Corinthian church, he was so disappointed with them that whether he was in the yard or in his room in 2 Corinthians, it records that he wept for them. Whenever I look at 2 Corinthians chapter 2, whenever I read about the tears of Paul, I myself cry and weep for my saints. Prayer of tears, of repentance. God will pity them. And that is how your illnesses are healed. That is how illnesses are healed. A prayer mixed with tears. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 records this. Look at King Hezekiah. He was arrogant. He became wealthy, and it became so comfortable to live. And so God was going to strike the people. So through prophet Isaiah, God commanded him, "Go to Hezekiah. What should I tell him? Oh, tell him that he's going to die in 3 days." And so the servants invited Isaiah into the palace. And King Hezekiah goes before Isaiah and says, "Oh, prophet Isaiah, why are you here?" And Isaiah says, "God has commanded me to tell you that you will die in 3 days." King Hezekiah threw down his crown, went on his knees, and raised his hands and prayed to God, asking God, "God, forgive me. I have been wicked. Although I have acted wickedly, I have not been wicked all my life. I have done good for you, have I not, God?" And he would cry, and he would rub his face on the wall. And he didn't even know that his skin was being torn off from his face. He cried so much. When Isaiah was walking out of the palace, and before he could leave the walls of the palace, God told Isaiah, "Stop! Return back to Hezekiah." What should I tell Hezekiah? Tell him that I have seen his tears and his repentance and his prayer. Isaiah chapter 33 verse 5 records this. Isaiah chapter 38 verse 5. "I have seen your tears." And what else did God tell Hezekiah? "I will add 15 years to your life." He added 15 years to King Hezekiah's life. 15 years. The prayer of repentance, of tears, brings God closer to us. And that's why I gave you Isaiah chapter 38, verse 5. Read it. He added 15 years. Psalm chapter 42, verse 3 says, "My tears have been my food, day and night. They will receive an answer from God." Even if we're ill, if we're not urgent, and we say, "Oh God, I'm sick, please heal me." Do you think God will heal you? How great is the time of prayer? Time of prayer is the time where we converse with God. But the time we spent in the hospital is time lost. It is time that disappears. So which one is better? Which one is better? It's better to pray in tears. We don't lose ourselves, right? We don't lose our family, our wealth, our children. We don't lose our friends. If you're sick, then you can't even eat or drink, right? So what does food have to do with you when you're ill? So we have to be healthy. That's how we can be more fervent in our life in the church. That's how we can evangelize. We can raise our children in faith. How great is this? It's worth it, right? God allows you to be prosperous. This world also allows you to be prosperous. But there is concern and anxiety and worry that comes with the wealth of this world, with the success given to us by this world. However, the wealth that God gives us, the blessing of wealth that God gives us, is free of all concern and worry. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22 records this. And he said he will give us the ability to earn wealth. So do not be arrogant. Do not be proud. People don't eat. People don't drink. People try to save money when other people are spending it. That's not good. Apostle Paul worked more fervently than the other apostles. Apostle Paul did more than the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ. I labored even more than all of them. But it is not I, but the grace of God that did this. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 10 records this. Likewise, have you given thanks when you're eating food? God blessed water with the blessing of life. God blessed the water with the blessing of longevity. It's the same with our rice. It's the same with our food. God has given and blessed the food with the blessing of life. So whenever we eat, have you prayed, God, thank you. Thank you for giving me the blessing of life. Thank you for giving me the blessing of longevity. That's how we should eat after praying. But some people, they just burst into the kitchen and pick up their spoon and just pray briefly, and then they're busy shoveling food into their mouths. And I don't understand this. A noodle prayer should be very short. Now, we eat with other elders and stuff like that, and I know how long their prayers are, right? So I never ask them to pray during mealtime. I always pray. When we're eating noodles, you just have to pray simply of thanksgiving, right? But they're praying so hard that they're spitting everywhere. That's when you move your bowl of noodle to the side. You have to be very simple in your noodle prayers. So from now on, live a life of thanksgiving and cry when you need to. Our house has to be at peace. What's the point of saying all of this, right? There's a lot of Bible verses.